We are live.
I'm just waiting to see if it popped up in the YouTube chat window. Yes, we are. Okay, we are good to go. Oh, but I guess I should hit mute because I don't want to hear myself. Era ho puñeta. Okay. All right, you ready?
I suppose as I'll ever be.
Right.
I'm having troubles with. Okay, I got it now. Cool.
All right, so it is on like Donkey Kong.
Yes.
Welcome to the Nintendo Power Zone. We are a video cat. What? No. Welcome to the Nintendo Power Zone. We are a video cast / podcast dedicated to bringing you the best Nintendo related topics. As always, I'm your host, Nice One, and joining me today is my co-host, Blues. What's going on, man?
Not much. A good day off. A good day of shopping. Picked up my Mega Man plushie here. For those of you watching the video feed, you can see him. Otherwise, he's very cute, adorable Mega Man.
All right. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a whole lot of news to talk about, and we're going to be talking from Pokemon to Labo VR. So we're going to be running the gamut today. And with that, let's just go ahead and slide into our powered up news. So for our first news story, a brand new trailer dropped for Mewtwo, Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. So as predicted, this is an all CG version of the Pokemon movie, and it looks like it's going to be a complete shot-for-shot remake of that original movie. We haven't got any word if there's going to be anything new added to the film. One can only assume that they can't just release it, identically. But it'd be interesting if they did. I mean, this is probably the best Pokemon movie in the 22 movies that they have currently. So I would say that this is still probably the best one. But I kind of have an interesting take on these character models, man. So if you haven't seen the trailer, it's about 2 minutes. And I think that the Pokemon themselves look fantastic. But
the trainers.
The trainers, especially Ash, looks like way off model. I'm not saying that it's it's not terrible CGI for the trainers, but Ash in particular looks like he's made out of claymation.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's way off model from what I'm used to seeing, especially when we're going back to like season 1 visuals. It's very weird. Brock looks okay, and Misty looks all right. There's this like plasticky quality to them. I still think the movie is going to be really good, and from what we saw in the trailer, everything in motion, I actually liked all that stuff. It's just the trailers look weird. Obviously, this hasn't been translated for the Western audiences yet. We probably won't see, this movie hit stateside until around November. That's been when they've been releasing the more recent Pokemon movies, and they get about a couple day run in the theaters here. They're usually Fathom events. I have seen the last 2 movies. I enjoyed them thoroughly. Like, the movies have gotten better, but they still don't match the quality of this original Pokemon movie. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to go down. But I'm really more interested as to whether or not this is a complete shot-for-shot remake. If you haven't seen the trailer, I implore you to go look at it now because there's some interesting visuals. Man, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
I want to start with how you described Ash. He does look very plasticky. I went and I actually took some screenshots from the visuals of Link's Awakening remaster and sort of compared them how Ash looked. And it's very similar sort of plasticky look. And it's kind of jarring. So, especially when compared, like you said, the Pokemon look great. And I almost kind of wish the Pokemon in like Detective Pikachu looked like these. Which it's because we've been over before that Detective Pikachu, they look very fuzzy, realistic, how they might look if they were really real, I suppose. which, you know, you see the Pokemon Go like announcement, like teaser trailers, and those all look like how you might expect them more. Detective Pikachu Shift is very drastic in comparison. This is, I like this. I think this could be, it's good. I like it. Just the trainers don't look quite right. As far as it's a shot-for-shot remake, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. Right now, it kind of looks like it is. But we saw with the first of the new sort of new movies, I Choose You, right? Where it's a remake of the first movie with the sort of same animation that you saw with The Power of Us, the sequel, not sequel, but the second of the new movies. And they added Marshadow. They added a completely new quest sort of line. They had 2 new companions who were not Brock or Misty, and they had a lot of Gen 4 Pokemon and a lot of just Gen 7. They Pokemon for every generation, honestly, in that. Which, like, the rival had in Incineroar, etc. So that took a lot of liberties with remaking that story up until essentially Pikachu trusts Ash after the Spearow attack. And then after that, we got The Power of Us, which follows the same sort of version of Ash in a sense. It's the same animation, etc. And it's a completely new story, but then we're only limited to Generation 2 Pokemon. And now we're going back again into Gen 1 territory, whether or not they'll add new like Gen 7 Pokemon or even a Gen 8 Pokemon like they tend to do with movies sometimes. In the anime, Ash actually just caught a Meltan. I remember in Gen 6 anime, the little girl, forgot her name. She had the
she had a
Zygarde.
Zygarde.
Yeah. And you know, they tease these Pokemon from every so often. You get movies about them, like Victini had his movie before Black and White really came out. You had Lucario like appeared in certain games before Gen 4 really came out, etc. And I think his anime was Gen 3 anime movie, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
I can't recall. You know, I want to go back to the character models for a second because we've seen plasticky looking trainer models before. Most recently in Pokemon Let's Go, the Pokemon trainer in that game looks very plasticky, but
not in the same sense.
Yeah, but this is more claymation looking. Like the characters look like claymation. I think it would have been less jarring if they tried to do a character model that was more similar to the version of Trainer Red that we see in Pokemon Let's Go, because Trainer Red does have a hidden cameo if you beat at least 6 Master Trainers. So if you look at him, he probably, if they could have been able to like plug in those visuals into this movie, I think you'd have a much better look for the character models for this. It's weird though, like I don't necessarily hate the models. There's just something about them that I guess they're kind of hitting that uncanny valley thing for me, where it's like not pretty enough. Like they're unmistakably, you know, human characters, but they're not pretty enough that you would that you're drawn to the characters. The Pokemon themselves though look absolutely fantastic, especially Mewtwo, because I've always found Mewtwo's 3D design to be awkward in every game that he appears in 3D, because like his dimensions are just all over the place, like little head, large lower body, long arms, and he's got weird dimensions. So I always found his 3D model to be a little bit weird. No matter which game you plug him in, he looks weird in Smash. He looks weird in Pokemon Coliseum. He just looks weird all around in 3D. It's just, I think when they designed these characters, obviously back in the day, they were not accounting to moving these visuals into, you know, the third dimension. Yeah, and still, I am super excited about this movie. I cannot wait to go to the theaters and experience this movie again. You know what I think is really cool about this? If it is a shot-for-shot remake, 20 years ago, by the time this movie comes out, it'll be 20 years since the first Pokemon movie came out. So there are parents now who have little kids, and they can take them to experience virtually the same movie that they saw when they were, you know, kids or teenagers. Like, I was 16 when that movie came out. So if I had, you know, children, this would be something I'd be taking them to see. It was like, this was my first Pokemon movie. Kind of want this to like be your first Pokemon movie. And I want it to be as close to my movie as physically possible, if that makes any sense. Like,
No, that's fair.
just totally nostalgia tripping over there.
It was 1998, right? That it came out.
The first Pokemon movie, it came out stateside in 1999. I don't recall.
Yeah, okay.
When it came out in Japan, probably a little bit of a delay.
Fair. Yeah, I'd imagine. But I'm just thinking you were 16 then. I was about born then. So it's definitely a big bridged gap there. But I mean, I'm thinking about it. Like, I started Pokemon around Gen 2. My sister got, like, I would see my sister playing Gen 1, and I loved it. I didn't quite understand it. But then once I was able to comprehend, it was already, like, Gen 2-ish, and I started in Gen 2. But I went back. I started, like, think from the Celebi movie and then worked my way all the rest. So I'm familiar with the classic movies. But I didn't, grow up with them, per se. I didn't age with them. I came back to them at an early age.
Understandable. Okay, so the movie actually did come out in 1998 in Japan, and then it was released in 1999 stateside.
Yeah. Okay.
Since then, we've caught up. We actually get the movies within the same calendar year as the kids in Japan.
We get the games now too, the same day, which is wild for me. I used to have to watch like the Heart Gold Soul Silver game in Japanese a whole 2 years before it came out stateside. So to see it, to get to play the games the same day as everyone else now is huge for me.
Yes, which is actually really nice because, man, especially that delay between Gold and Silver, I remember that very vividly. It was really upsetting. Really, really upsetting. Aside from that, there was also a second trailer that was released to go with that. It was a 30-second trailer. It doesn't show anything more than what you saw in the first trailer. In fact, I feel like it's more in line with some of the visuals you saw in the original first trailer. But nonetheless, this is going to be coming out this summer, so we'll probably see it around November. You can quote me on that. That's coming out in around November, around over here. What would be really dope though? If when they bring this movie stateside, if they were able to get like Veronica Taylor to come back to voice Ash just for this particular film. I know it's not going to happen. We've moved on from the 4Kids dub, but it'd be nice to hear Veronica Taylor's voice in this particular movie.
Fair point. I would not be upset if she came back or if she didn't either way, but it would be nice for nostalgia for sure.
All right, but I think that's all we have to say on Pokemon the movie Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. Love that title.
I mean,
it just makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, in terms of evolution, if they are going not for the cut for cut, it could be Mega Evolution added, or there's this new Galar region mechanic potentially, and they could maybe tease that, or a third Mega or something.
All right. So, guys, before we move on to our next news story, we're going to be doing a giveaway for one of these Funko, A Day with Pikachu, One Lucky Day Pikachu. In order to win this, you got to do a couple of things. This isn't just going to be your standard easy giveaway. What I want you guys to do is I want you to subscribe to the channel, and I want you to leave a comment in the comment box down below. What is your favorite Pokemon movie moment? Give us that information, subscribe to the channel, and you will win one of these Lucky Day Pikachus. There's going to be one winner. We're going to wait until we're going to give you guys a month to submit your answers. So there should be 2 whole episodes by the time we announce the winner of the Lucky Day Pikachu. We're going to announce the winner via Twitter, and we're also going to announce it on the YouTube page. So if you aren't subscribed to the Nintendo Power Zone and you want a chance to win a Lucky Day Pikachu, subscribe. Leave your comment. What is your favorite Pokemon movie moment? All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move into our next story. I'm a little excited about this because of the context of which it was announced. So for those who don't know, I have been reading Blake J. Harris's The History of the Future, which is all about the formation of Oculus. It's a very interesting book. It's as good as Console Wars. So if you've read Console Wars, you definitely need to go ahead and pick this book up. If you haven't read Console Wars, get them both because you can get both of these books for relatively cheap. You can get the History of the Future for $14.99 at any of your local bookstores or iBooks, Amazon Kindle, or you could. There's plenty of ways to get this book, or you can get the audiobook, which is what I'm doing. I'm listening to the audiobook, but I also bought the digital version of the book as well. So I'm reading and listening to it at the same time. It is really a much more immersive experience when you read like that. Fight me. Anyway, so hot on the heels of reading this book, Nintendo announces that they're doing a Labo VR kit. Now, Nintendo kind of has a sordid history with virtual reality, to say the least.
Virtual Boy.
The Virtual Boy is as bad to VR as anything has ever been. But yeah, this actually makes
it was ahead of its time.
No.
Virtual Boy was just ahead of its time. If it came in with technology of the Oculus, we would be fine. Nintendo would be essentially just a VR exclusive company. Virtual Boy would sell millions, and Oculus would just be broke. Come on.
Never gonna happen. That would never happen. Nintendo completely screwed the pooch on VR because they were impatient. Gunpei Yokoi even said that he needed at least an additional 2 to 3 years to really make the Virtual Boy a success. And the fact that they kind of promoted it as the successor to the Game Boy wasn't a good look, especially in the game during that era where the Game Boy was still selling massively based off of just Tetris. Anyway, I love this idea. It's very much in the vein of Google Cardboard, which was really big back in 2016, and it makes total sense that Nintendo would enter the VR space utilizing Labo. It is essentially Google Cardboard, and I love the way that they've shown how it's used. There's that one that looks like a VR camera. There's another that looks
trunk and a swan. Those
that elephant trunk. Tell me that is some kind of Breath of the Wild integration, and that's
Divine Beast Ruta.
Yes.
Divine Beast Ruta. Yeah.
Then you've got that VR bird, which is hilarious. You got the VR bazooka, and then you've got your standard Google Cardboard looking
visor
Labo. Yeah, I love all of that. I love all of that. How they integrate this is going to be really important. Will it work with existing Nintendo Switch games? Because I can imagine they've already included Labo support for Mario Kart. So could you imagine Mario Kart Labo VR? How they integrate this? They haven't said how they're going to do it. But I totally feel like you could get a whole crap ton, a first-person view of Mario Kart.
I think that would be amazing. Cool. I feel like this is definitely, it's quite literally Nintendo's first venture, their first step into this new VR world. And so I don't think they'll be too quick to make a new VR experience. I think if this does well, which it could not, we don't know. Depends. Labo's been ongoing for a while now. I'm sure people are feeling maybe burnt out on it, or if the prospect of VR is more enticing or what. But as it stands, I don't really know personally where they'll go. I don't think they'll. So they seem to be keeping Labo as its own sort of thing. They are announcing Labo as separate from all the Recs. They don't have any intermingling with their existing IPs for the most part. You don't see everyone thought that Yoshi's Woolly World, Crafted Island or Crafted World. I can't talk. Everyone thought that would have a VR or not VR, a Labo integration. But all we really have seen so far is a outfit for Yoshi in that game. They don't seem to be using Labo in too many other of their big things other than Mario Kart. As you've already said, we don't see any Labo exclusive games like a Zelda mini game in Labo or a Mario mini game in Labo. Those just don't seem to be a thing. They seem to keep this separate from the rest of their stuff. So I think we could see one day a standalone VR game, but it'll take a while. Sorry.
So to go back into this, we have to acknowledge the price point real quick, because this is probably the breaker here. The Labo VR kit is going to retail at $79.99, which is still really expensive for cardboard kits, but it's gonna come with software. They always come with, when you buy a Labo kit, a starter kit, you always get software. So there's going to be software in the packaging, or maybe a download code that will allow you to experience VR. That being said, though, I still think the price point is a little high, but with that starter kit, you can make the following. You can make the VR goggles, the wind pedal, the Toy-Con camera, the Toy-Con elephant, the Toy-Con bird, and the Toy-Con blaster. Now, if you do buy the Labo VR kit, you can go online and you can order 2 expansion sets, and these will retail at $19.99. And the expansion set 1 will include the Toy-Con camera and the Toy-Con elephant. The expansion pack 2 will be the bird and the wind pedal, and that's just if you buy the blaster starter pack, which will allow you to build the VR goggles or the VR blaster. But if you get the whole kit, that's what's going to run you $79.99, and then you pay, I believe, $39.99 if you just buy the standard starter kit. So yeah, $39.99. I was right. So it's expensive. If best bet is if you're gonna purchase this, your best bet is to buy that $79.99 starter kit, because you're going to be paying about a little bit more if you buy them individually. It's like $5 more. I do like this idea. I do think that Labo didn't take off 100% the way that it should have. This is a much better use of Labo, and it's very much in the vein of Google Cardboard. And as we all know, Google Cardboard was really popular for, in 2016. Now, is Nintendo a little bit late to the party? Maybe. I mean, but Nintendo was always kind of a little bit late to the party, and considering their past experience with VR, and if you can't see the video version, air quotes, their past experience with VR pretty much pushed them out of that arena. Now, obviously, you're not going to be getting an Oculus type or even a Samsung VR kit style experience with this, but you're going to get something similar to what you saw with Google Cardboard. What would be nice, though, if we do have YouTube now on the Switch.
VR. Oh, that too.
Yeah, YouTube has a lot of like VR videos. If you can integrate this, if this software can be used, or if you can use these goggles with that YouTube stuff, that expands the usage of the Labo kit a little bit more. Thoughts, B?
Fair. So you were talking about the prices and the different kits you can buy. I think this is a pretty interesting idea, because you can essentially enter the Labo market for cheaper at this point. If you just got that first set with, I think, the bazooka and the goggles, you're not paying nearly as much, which makes the prospect a bit more doable. It lowers the entry barrier into Labo just a bit, which I think is nice. Because it is kind of a tall budget. It's a tall glass of water, tall wall, but I don't know what I'm saying here. It's not easy to buy Labo because of the price point. So I think splitting it up this way is nice. It's a good idea. While also still having the bundle where you save a bit. It's a bit wonky having to make all of those, I bet, but it's not bad. I think this will see this will definitely be useful to people interested in Labo, but not willing to spend the $70 on it.
Exactly. So I think this is cool. I am a huge advocate for VR. I love the tech. I think we're still a little ways off from it being like a really amazing experience. But man, you look at what HTC and Oculus and the Void are doing. They're really making VR fun and accessible. Especially, I like what the Void's doing. I did the Star Wars experience in Orlando not too long ago, and that was amazing. You put on a backpack, put on the goggles, and you get to be like, you get to kill stormtroopers in VR. So, yeah, and I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, so that says a lot when I enjoyed that experience as much as I did. All right, so with that, I think we can go ahead and move on from Labo and Nintendo's second attempt at integrating VR with their hardware. Time to go ahead and move on to some controversial news. Just depends on which side of the fence you sit on. So side games and Nintendo, they're not really playing nice with one another. So what happens is Side Games has been complaining, and for those who don't recall, Side Games, they are the developers of Grand Blue Fantasy and Dragalia Lost. Dragalia Lost is a game that they partnered with Nintendo. Basically, Nintendo just published the game for them, and they did all the development and whatnot. Side Games is upset because they are saying that Nintendo will not let them monetize the game more. So this is a hot take. We live in a world now where people are very skeptical of loot box games. Like we're sick. People are sick of them. 2018 as a whole was a lot of people going back hard at developers, especially developers like EA, Bethesda, and Activision. They took these studios to task over loot boxes and predatory. What is the in-app purchases? And Side Games is saying that Nintendo is not interested in making a large amount of revenue from a single smartphone game. If we managed the game alone, we would have made a lot more. That is a direct quote from a Side Games representative. I'm going to let you take the charge on this. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I'm taking the lead. I mean, so I'm kind of against the idea of spending more money than in a game. But you have to also think free to play is where I'm not sure. So a free to play game, they make their money through these in-app purchases, and that's understandable, especially if you're getting content for it. Getting things like extras is fine if you are getting a full game out front. Especially if you're paying at the front like a $60 game, then getting that full experience, then having extras on. Looking at something like Fire Emblem, where you can play the whole game as is, and you're getting those orbs. You're not getting anything really premium when you spend money. You can earn orbs the old-fashioned way by playing the game, or you can buy them. And so I don't actually remember how Grand Blue, how Dragalia Lost has you spend real world money, so I'm not too familiar if it's good or bad in terms of like the extras, or if it's exclusive items that you can only get by buying them.
I'm going to interject right quick.
Okay.
I think the larger problem with Dragalia Lost in specific, Side Game. I wish Jaden was here because Jaden is a very big advocate for Grand Blue Fantasy. He loves that game. He has spent tons of money on this game. He'd be pretty much an expert at their loot box system and whatnot. But unfortunately, Jaden, Jaden's a very busy man, so he's doing what he has to do in real life. But what's important here is that I think the bigger issue is that Dragalia Lost isn't a very good game. And that's where the real issues stem from. Dragalia Lost isn't a bad game, but it's not an exceptionally well done game either, in my opinion. I think it's just average. I think of the games that Nintendo has released on mobile, it's kind of near the bottom. I only have it ranked above Miitomo currently, and Miitomo isn't really a game. That being, obviously, and Nintendo has managed to make money with Fire Emblem. Therein lies the difference. Even though I don't necessarily like Fire Emblem Heroes, Nintendo is making a boatload of money. It's still making a boatload of money off of Fire Emblem Heroes, and that game was released 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
2 years.
It's been 2 years since Fire Emblem Heroes was released, and they're still making a crap ton of money off that game. It is their most successful release. Therein lies the problem. And another thing we have to mention is that Nintendo did publish this game, which means that they paid for the rights to this game so that they could release it. So Side Games has made money off of this game, but what they're talking about is the back end money. And I, for one, am not a huge fan of free to play games at all. I would rather just pay a flat rate for the game, which is why I was actually really happy with Super Mario Run. Now, it is not the best Mario game by any stretch of the imagination. But I actually thought the $10 price point was fair. I mean, there was a little bit of a backlash to the $10 price point because people aren't used to paying that much for mobile games. But I think Nintendo actually did find a fairly decent price point for that game, for as big as it was, for, you know, and the quality of that game. That game looks very good. I would rather pay the $10 up front than have you nickel and dime me left and right. Because of this, I kind of wonder if Cygames and Nintendo's working relationship is null and void going forward. That being said, though, Cygames is partially owned by DNA, which is partially owned by Nintendo. So I wonder how much clout Nintendo can throw at Cygames' way to make a new game within the franchise, or just a new game in general. I find it odd that they complained this hard, and I just feel like the game should have been better. You would have made more money if the game had been better. I mean, obviously, look at Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is a perfect example. Fire Emblem doesn't look great by Fire Emblem standards, but fundamentally, it plays well enough like a Fire Emblem game that people are willing to drop boatloads of money on it. I don't know. I think this is a weird conversation to be having. I don't know if I like what Cygames is saying here. Like, maybe you could have made more money if you had released the game yourselves. And obviously, in Japan, you have the clout to have released this game independently. You did that with Grand Blue Fantasy, and that game, you know, for all intents and purposes, is a smash. That game's been out for like 5 years, and it still makes money. So it is what it is. I don't play enough of Dragalia Lost to actually say whether or not they could have made more money. I know that my personal play experience with the game, I thought it was boring. And if you make a boring game, you can't expect it to be successful.
Well, here's food for thought. Do we know? So Nintendo is apparently in charge of the monetization of this game, hence why Cygames is complaining for the most part. Was there anything else that Nintendo might have been in charge of? I know that Cygames had most of the development, but is it possible that it might be Nintendo's fault as to why it's not as good of a mobile game?
As far as loot boxes are concerned, I am not the expert here.
Well, no, not. You said that Dragalia Lost was just not as good of a game as it could have been, though. Do you think that might have something to do with Nintendo, or could that just all be Cygames' development?
Well, I think it kind of stems from, you know, the quality of the story. Cygames made the game. Like,
okay.
They had a story in that game that seemed interesting from the offset, but the story is boring, and the gameplay is repetitive. Even for a mobile game, the gameplay is repetitive.
Okay.
And they spent a lot of money on the graphics. And I think that's where Cygames is really what they're really complaining about. The cost of development, because they spent a lot of money to make a very good-looking mobile game. Maybe they haven't recouped the development cost. And maybe that's probably why they're complaining.
Okay,
but
I believe it.
In that sense, that Dragalia Lost might have been a little bit too ambitious of a game, because they went for visuals over gameplay.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know who's at fault here. Personally, I think it's for the best that Nintendo does.
Said no.
I think it's good that they have these stringent guidelines on in-game purchases. Even with Fire Emblem, there is a limit to how much money you can actually spend. I think it's something like $20 a day. You can't spend more than that. I don't know. So there are limits. Anything further than that we do get into like predatory territory. Like, oh, you can't go any further. Like, you can't play any more of the game unless you give us $5 for 2 gems. And you get 2 more turns. Like, that stuff is super predatory in free-to-play games. And I don't think Nintendo IP should fall to those kind of practices. And I'm glad that Nintendo's putting a nip in the bud here.
I'm the question of what, you know, as a player or a consumer or gamer, you know, what you are entitled to with a purchase, with a free to play. It's changing as the landscape of game in this post free to play era, where there's mobile games everywhere. There's free to play. There's still these games that are $60, and there's also $60 games with over $100 in DLC. Uh, it's the question's still kind of being answered, but we are seeing a lot more people sort of take a stance. There are people boycotting. There are people banding together, complaining, making public not petition. Well, they're making petitions. They're making stances. Like social media posts that get very, very big and viral, etc. And it's going to be the biggest things to sort of see going forward, how game studios and developers respond to these monetization claims and the consumers boycotting and making their stances as well.
Ultimately, I understand why side games would feel a type of way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem I have with this is the fact that they brought this into the public. They made us very aware that they want to make more money off this game. But then when I consider what other mobile developers are doing, especially in the free-to-play landscape, I'm like, so you're saying you want to gouge us? Like that's kind of what I take away from these types of quotes when he's like, we could have made more money. Certainly, you probably could have. You would have made more money from the get if it was a better game, and I think that's the real problem. They didn't make a very good game, and they're upset at the financial gains that they've made. It is what it is. We'll see how this affects their working relationship going forward. So I want to move on to another story that films that stays within the space of the mobile realm. Octopath Traveler,
yes,
was a pretty much breakout success for Square Enix on the Nintendo Switch last year. They made an announcement last week that got a whole bunch of people, including myself, very excited. We are going to be getting an Octopath, either prequel or sequel, for mobile, and that'll be out later this year. And obviously, it retains that 2D HD 2D graphic art style, which was probably one of the best things about that game. That trailer was really dope too. I mean, if you go back and take a look at the trailer, you see a bunch of like beautiful, beautiful scenery, and I cannot wait to see what this game will actually entail. It is a little weird to see, an exclusive Nintendo Switch game going on mobile. But I'm kind of hoping that Square is actually really smart with the way they handle this game and bring it to the Nintendo Switch as well. Now, they did say not to worry, that this doesn't mean that the game won't still be a Nintendo Switch exclusive. They said that this is kind of a stopgap, if you will. This is for people who enjoy the game to enjoy the game further, but that the series will remain console exclusive on the Nintendo Switch. What are your thoughts on this?
I want to immediately jump off of that console exclusivity. When Octopath Traveler, came out, there were a lot of pleas from people over the world, mostly Japan, but all over the world, to bring it specifically to PlayStation 4. And you kind of got your wish, not to PlayStation 4, but you're getting the ability to experience this game not on a Switch if you don't have it, or at least a version of the game, a prequel and or a sequel of it. And I think that's a good sort of filler to people who wanted to experience this Octopath Traveler style of game. It's not the exact same game, obviously, but to experience this franchise maybe on another system that they had access to. Almost everyone has access to a smartphone now, and especially in Japan. So even if you don't have a PlayStation 4, you can or a Switch, you can experience Octopath Traveler in some fashion, which I think is good. The fact that they actually aren't just going to port over the other one, the original, or even the sequel to PlayStation 4 or some other system, I actually find kind of weird, but I respect it, keeping the Switch exclusive. Because they didn't have to do that unless there's some very legal writing with them and Nintendo saying, "Hey, this is exclusive, not timed exclusive. It's just flat out exclusive." I don't know. So I don't know. Personally, I don't like.
Go ahead.
Personally, I don't like playing my RPGs on my phone, so I probably won't play this. I'm not too big of a phone gamer in general.
I'm definitely gonna put my hands on this. I'm interested to see what the characters' lives are like either before or after the main game, depending on how they want to, play this game out. What I like is it does maintain that excellent combat system from the first game, which, man, there's a lot to be said about that game visually, but as far as its gameplay is concerned, it does really stack up nice, especially for a turn-based RPG. So yeah, I enjoy the combat system, and I enjoy this development team. Obviously, they've made games as Bravely Default, Bravely Second, Octopath Traveler, and now we're going to see them take, Octopath Traveler into the mobile space. Very interesting. I kind of wonder what the game is going to be like. We just got done talking about side games and possibly predatory, loot box systems. I wonder how Square Enix is going to handle this particular game because they've run the gamut. They have released a couple of free-to-play games, but they've also released some single-player exclusive style games that don't actually have any loot boxes on mobile. So it's kind of a crapshoot for how they handle this game. I'm hoping for the latter a single-player experience that you pay upfront wholesale for. So if you want to charge like $5.99 for this game, charge $5.99. But that's another thing, though. Square Enix's mobile titles have been really iffy as far as their price points are concerned. I've seen games on the mobile store that are like $21.99, i.e. The World Ends With You. And then I've seen them go as low as like $5.99. They run the gamut with their pricing at Square. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this goes. Love Octopath Traveler. Love it from a gameplay standpoint and from a visual standpoint. Excited to see where they go in the future with this version of the game. All right. Anything else on Octopath Traveler on the mobile?
No, I think I said what I wanted to say.
Awesome. So we might as well go ahead and move into a story that kind of upsets me in so many different ways. Sakurai and the development of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, we have known for years that Sakurai is a severe workaholic. He runs himself ragged. This guy has given himself like arthritis developing these games. He's put himself in the hospital while working on these games. He takes like 3 days off a year. Like, that's not normal. Ladies and gentlemen, to our audience, to the audience that are adults and have regular day jobs, like, how many days off of a year do you have? A crap ton. You usually have 2 days off a week, 52 weeks a year, maybe some vacation time, but you'd have days off. You have time to unwind and decompress. This man works almost every day of the year. He has 3 days off. And he does horrible things to himself in the development of this game. And he recently did an interview where he revealed that he got to the point where he was so sick that he was using IV drops while working on the development of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Could you imagine making yourself so sick that you had to have an IV in order to rehydrate your body or ingest medication, or for whatever particular reason he was using these IV drips for, and working? That is, in America, that would never happen. In most modern countries, where non-third world countries, if you're sick, you have sick leave. You take time off, you heal your body, and you deal with it. And if you don't, well, that's your own fault. You're in the wrong. Then you have a job that doesn't allow you to have days like sick time, and it's time to move into a new career path. Do your best so that you can accomplish that goal. But this man is killing himself while he develops these games. And what really makes me upset about this story, finding out that this man is like literally doing damage to his body and still working, is that you get these stupid complaints about Waluigi. This guy is killing himself, and you have a contingency of the fan base crying and bitching and moaning and being horrible people over freaking Waluigi, you people don't deserve to play the game. You people don't deserve to have a Nintendo Switch. You people, you barely deserve the oxygen that you breathe. Because this guy is working his ass off to make as many people happy with the game as possible, and you sit there being unappreciative. And this isn't like an EA situation where like EA and Activision are constantly looking to screw you over with DLC and just bad quality games. When Sakurai develops a game, he puts 100% into the game. Obviously more than 100% because he's going above and beyond what a normal human would do in order to deliver a product. I can't say any more about this without getting upset. Thoughts, man?
It's incredibly upsetting, and you've already kind of summed up how just like crappy it is. But what I think I might have said this before. I'm not entirely sure if I have. I want Sakurai to sort of finish the development of Smash Bros. Take a long vacation because he deserves it, and then maybe get to work on something new that he might like as a passion project that he could really get into, potentially, like a long time after this vacation. But as it stands, since I think when I said that, I've learned this is actually a cultural problem in Japan, where you're kind of expected to die from your job for your job in Japan. A lot of instances. And there are people who die from overwork, not enough sleep, dehydration. They will sleep like on the streets because they passed out on their way like home from work at the night. It's a very big problem in Japan, it seems. I was not aware of this until maybe half a year ago, maybe? I'm not entirely sure.
That's true, but Japan as a whole has been trying to move away from that style of work. They, like, the government has actually like really done a good job of stepping in and saying that this isn't okay anymore. Specifically when Japan is experiencing such a decline in its actual population, less and less babies are being born in Japan due to things. I hate to say this word, due to otaku culture and other things, and women moving into the workforce and putting off having children in Japan. It's become an actual problem in Japan. Like their population is shrinking, and more people are working. So they're actually trying to move away from that cultural stigma that they have. So it's actually really weird to see Sakurai still adhering, to that style of work. He actually has something. This is his quote. I want to read his quote. "I guess I'm a hard worker. I'm a freelancer, so I don't have any strict rules on my time. As long as I can complete the game, I could show up to the office once per week, and I think it'd be within the realm of forgiveness. But instead, I make sure to come to work every day and write proper daily reports and such. I'm always working, but there's a lot of things that keep me in good spirit." I think Sakurai understands the importance of this franchise for Nintendo as a company and for Nintendo's fan base. But no other developer from Nintendo has come out and said that they work even a remotely similar schedule. It may be part of Nintendo's culture to work harder and longer, but no other developer from within Nintendo has committed themselves to 362-day work years,
Yes, I was going to get to that next. So you mentioned how Sakurai puts a lot into his games. Smash Bros. are culminations of gaming's history and a celebration of gaming in Nintendo. And so he's made this very clear through the directs, through the announcements, through everything, that he wants to do this right. He's going to make this a good game that is up to his high standard, and that there's no it'll play how he wants to be played. It'll be a full game for your $60. It won't be. It'll meet his expectations, and he seems to have very high expectations, and not many things would meet. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Go with this, but so
I think I get what you're saying. Like Sakurai holds himself to a higher standard. Like Sakurai has a lot in common with like Hideo Kojima. Like these are perfectionists. They're not just making a game that's good. They are striving for greatness,
perfection.
And anything less than that in their minds is disgraceful. Which is why it makes me really upset to hear things about like the Waluigi thing that came out last year. Like people like harassing this man on Twitter, via social media, like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, just harassing him over Waluigi. Over Waluigi, a character who Shigeru Miyamoto himself says he hates. Like a character that Miyamoto doesn't even want in like the Mario family. Yeah, like if you guys don't know, Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, hates Waluigi. He hates his conception. He hates the fact that the character exists. So why does Waluigi need to be in the game? Look, it bothers me. It bothers me to a very high degree. If you can't hear it in my voice how frustrated I am, like with this stupid controversy and the fact that people went out of their way to harass Sakurai over Waluigi, and then to find out that this guy is going to work with an IV in his arm. I want to see every person who bitched and moaned about Waluigi spend one day in their workspace with an IV drip. Because you know how much it sucks to have an IV drip? They suck. You have limited mobility in your arms when you have an IV in them. You're really supposed to be sitting still. You're not even supposed to be sitting. You're supposed to be laying down when you have resting. An IV drip. You should be on your back, and he's busting his ass. This is very frustrating. Like, you guys understand this. Sakurai is probably going to die mid-development of a game. That's most likely how he's going to die. He's not very old. He's in his 40s. Like, I don't expect him to live very long. If I'm being honest, I don't think Sakurai sees past 52.
I wanted to weigh in on his like damage he's doing to his body next. He's definitely damaging his body, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know his personal case. It's possible maybe that he isn't as bad off as we might think. Yes, he's overworked and is damaging his body, but he says that he's still in good spirits, which makes me believe that maybe he isn't bad enough to where he's, miserable and actually dying. I don't know. So potentially, I'm still an advocate for giving him a very long vacation. He deserves it. So give him that. But I think if he is good enough to actually work and be in good spirits, well, maybe his body is up for the task in some degree. I don't know.
Before we go any further, I kind of want to pull up the effects of sleep deprivation.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Bear with me, guys, and I'm going to clean this up in editing, obviously. But obviously there are studies that can show us what sleep deprivation does to the body.
It's not good, I'll tell you that much. But
"11 effects of sleep deprivation on your body. High blood pressure, diabetes, weakened immunity, weight gain, risk of heart disease, poor balance, low sex drive, memory issues, trouble with thinking and concentrating, mood swings." These are just the short-term effects that I'm reading off. There are other long-term effects. Sleeping less than 6 to 8 hours a day can increase the risk of early death by 12%.
Not good. The 12% is a big increase too.
Yeah. Man, it can actually give you chronic insomnia going forward. Just a little bit of sleep deprivation. Impulsive behavior, depression, paranoia, suicidal thoughts. it can affect your respiratory system. You're more likely to be infected with the common cold or the flu. It affects your digestive system, obviously, with the weight gain. These are things. Sleep deprivation can really mess with you. And we know that Sakurai has had sleep deprivation while developing both this game and Kid Icarus Uprising. Like, these are the effects of sleep deprivation. He's doing so much damage to himself. Like, I hate to turn this into like a health course because that's not what we do on the show. I'm not here, to give you like health information. I'm not a doctor. I'm just looking at basic symptoms of sleep deprivation and what it can do to you. And we're not just talking about sleep deprivation. Like, I noticed in the last direct for the Smash that Sakurai looked a little bit thinner than usual.
He's been getting thinner and thinner since Smash 4, honestly.
Yeah, he's looking more and more gaunt. Like, being too skinny can affect your liver. Like, you can get liver damage from stuff like that. Like, I don't perceive Sakurai as being a man in good health. So, again, knowing what we know about the development of Smash and how long it takes and how much work goes into it, I find it very upsetting to hear all of the issues that the audience brings to light, like Waluigi, or even complaining about stages and whatnot. Like, this is a guy who's literally killing himself for your enjoyment. Like, this is not like an instance where we're watching an athlete, compete and injure themselves and get paid, a king's ransom to do such a thing. Like, this isn't a boxer who gets brain damage. This is a video game developer making a game for your enjoyment, and you're complaining about things, minor things that are unimportant. When you have the largest roster in fighting game history, you're complaining about Waluigi. Name another fighting game that has as many characters as Smash Ultimate, and there are more characters to come. I'm so upset. I am so upset. Like, if you can't tell by the tone of my voice and the look on my face, you people actually make me sick. Like, if you were one of those people, please unsubscribe from the channel. I don't care about your subscription that much to the channel. I'm being very serious. Like, you can unsubscribe to the channel and it will not affect how I feel about this particular situation. And I won't miss you. 100% won't miss you because you're toxic. You're toxic to the gaming community. You're toxic to the FGC. You're toxic to my fan base, our fan base, and you're toxic to Sakurai. So yeah, hot take. Fight me. Anyway, any other thoughts on this, B?
No, I think
I'm just going ape shit over here.
Yeah, I think we've summed it up quite nicely. I think we're also getting a bit heated. And maybe kind of move on. Get a new subject. Just clear that out.
Well,
it's unfortunate, but
that's actually gonna wrap up our news segment. Powered up news. So guys, before we go ahead, we're gonna move into a commercial break. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys, if you want to win the Lucky Day Pikachu, what you have to do is subscribe to the Nintendo Power Zone and leave a comment in the comment box and let us know what is your favorite Pokemon movie moment. We will announce the winner in a month's time, and that winner will be very graced. They will be the lucky winner of the Lucky Day Pikachu. And yeah, guys, I cannot wait to do this giveaway. I know this is actually really hard to come by, so I want to give it to somebody. I want somebody to get this and be happy. So yeah, subscribe, leave, give us your favorite Pokemon movie moment, and that's how you're gonna do it. Anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a 5-minute commercial break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the second year anniversary for the Nintendo Switch. I am excited to get into this topic, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right. What is up?
All right.
Dude, have you had one of these?
No, I have not.
These things are amazing.
I don't really. I don't do candy nearly as much as I used to. I cut out most soda and candy.
Oh man, I've cut out soda before. I did pretty good with that. I lost a crap ton of weight. But I love soda, especially right now when Mountain Dew does the Baja Blast over the summer. I'm gonna have to start working out really hard over the summer because of that shit. And then M&M releases these chocolate bars. They're like, I already like chocolate. This is my problem. This is why I can't stay healthy. I can't stay skinny is because my sweet tooth is like, no, you're gonna eat, boy. Anyway, I'll finish this last piece and we'll get back into the show. It got a little hot there, didn't I? That's that Puerto Rican blood in me making me go ape shit.
I mean, no, it's a reasonable thing to get upset over. Like, this man is working far too hard, and people don't respect that. They just don't, and it's shitty. Like, I would.
Sakurai is one of my all-time favorite developers. Like, I don't have a whole lot of developers that I'm like, you guys are like gods. But I got like edgy Anuma. I got Sakurai. I got Hideo Kojima. You know, at the top of like my Japanese developer list. These guys, you know, they make such great games and they put in so much hard work. Especially like Kojima and Sakurai. Like those guys work balls hard to make video games. It's upsetting. It really is. I was actually having this exact conversation with my after party last week when the news broke. I cannot believe that people complain in the slightest over these games. There's no such thing as a perfect game. I think that's the one thing everyone has to come to grips with. But I also think when we're talking about a fighting game that has over 60 characters, we don't need a Waluigi.
Yeah, there's 60 others you can pick from. You have basically everyone but Waluigi. And I guess that's honestly why people want Waluigi, because there's like, we're running out of the big characters at this point. Like, all of Nintendo's main series have most of the big characters represented. And they just want more characters at this point.
What's the name of Little Mac's trainer?
Doc Lewis.
Doc Lewis. I want to see Doc Lewis in Smash before I ever want to see Waluigi. Dude, you can imagine what Doc Lewis would be like? Because he's a boxer, too. He's a former boxer.
He's just retired, yeah.
I would actually like to see a lot more Punch-Out characters.
I would like to see a prequel to Punch-Out starring Doc Lewis before he appears as Mac's trainer.
I'd play the hell out of that game. But actually, I'd play the hell out of any Punch-Out game that Nintendo wants to make. I know we're still technically on commercial break, but Nintendo, if you're watching, if you find this before I have a chance to edit it, let it be known that I want a Smash Brothers. I'm sorry, I want a Punch-Out game. And I know did Genick Takeda retire yet?
I don't know.
I know he announced a retirement. Did he actually leave Nintendo yet?
I mean, I told you, I think either last
episode he retired last year.
2 episodes ago. I told you a few episodes ago about this game. It's an indie game called Pato Box. And I think if you're a Punch-Out fan, you'd really like it. There was also that rumored Punch-Out game at E3 that never happened.
Hell, if you just put Little Mac in ARMS, I'm cool with that too.
I want Dalsim as a guest character in ARMS so bad. Like, Dalsim is perfect. Like, give us like a Dalsim, like Plastic Man from DC Comics.
You know who would work? Rystar. Rystar would work. With the stretchy arms. Rayman doesn't even have arms.
Fair. Yes.
Just throw his fist out there.
What about like Haunter with the disembodied fists? Like,
Exactly,
just give us
yeah.
Haunter from Pokemon.
Let's just give us anybody who can elongate their body parts in arms. Or we could just get an arms character as Smash DLC. That'd be awesome too.
I mean, there was also that like fan art of Peach with like the piranha plant arms. That I would be down to see like Mario characters or other Nintendo characters just like get the arms kind of treatment of some fashion.
Oh, for Waluigi fans out there, I would rather see Toadette than Waluigi in a Smash game.
Captain Toad deserves.
Oh yeah,
the
he
spot,
can't even
though, to
jump.
be fair.
He can't even jump. So yeah, let's get Captain Toad in Smash.
I like Captain Toad to be the next Mario character, honestly. He really would. He has his own game, while Luigi doesn't have that yet. He has like technically the same game 3 times.
Let's see, obscure Mario. I want Wart over Waluigi. Get a cheap Wart from Mario Brothers 2, or a cheap fish.
Birdo. Could we get Birdo?
Birdo would be kind of cool because he could be like an Echo Fighter for
Yoshi. But you know, they made Dark Samus an Echo of Samus. Nothing stands. Never mind. I can't even say because they did it.
Who else?
Goomba. Just give us Goomba. Like you know how we got Goomba in Super Mario Party? Just like he doesn't even work with half the minigames. He doesn't have hands. Who cares? We'll make him work. Sakurai will find. He made Piranha Plant work. We have Piranha Plant, for Pete's sake. Just
all right. So let's go ahead and get back into the show.
Yes.
Welcome back. Excuse me. Welcome back to the Nintendo Power Zone. If you guys are just now joining us, we are going to go ahead and slide into our topic of the fortnight. And that topic is going to be awesome because we're going to be talking about the 2nd year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch. For those who are unaware, March 3rd was the official 2-year anniversary for the Nintendo Switch. And we just kind of want to talk about what these last 2 years have been like and what is the state of the Nintendo Switch going forward to 2019 and 2020 and possibly beyond that. So I guess we can go ahead and we can talk about the state of the games that were released in the year of 2018. I think it would be safe to say that the Nintendo Switch had an amazing 2017, but moving into 2018, we started to see a slower release schedule than that of the previous year. In 2018, like the only major game to come out between like December and February was the Bayonetta collection. And we didn't see a whole lot of games after then. There weren't a whole lot of major releases. We had like Kirby pop in there. We had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which was a port, pop in there. It just seemed like really slow to start off that second year. Now, near the end of the year, we ended up getting obviously the Octopath. The Octo expansion for Splatoon. We've got the announcement of Smash Ultimate. We got the announcement of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. We started to see games getting dated for the back half of the calendar year. But it felt like a long wait. So I think it's safe to say that Nintendo Switch's second year was just okay. It wasn't as bad as any of the years of the Wii U's lifespan. But when you consider that in 2017, they released like a major game a month, it was a much slower release window. Thoughts?
I mean, also, we're getting to the point where even though it was a very slow year, I feel like we're getting a lot of just games I want to play. They're not bigger games, but there were games that I wanted to play. They were coming to Switch, and I could do it. And they were all coming very quickly. We had a lot of third-party indie support, if not a lot of that first-party every month. But But one thing that I'm going to be seeing for sure this coming year, 2019, is that I will not be able to play all the games that I want to at all. I have to start making some serious decisions of what games I'm going to cut.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Like in 2017, it was totally manageable because only like a couple handfuls of Nintendo games here and there. And then obviously the back half of the year was just mostly Pokemon and Smash, which aren't hard to really complete. Smash you play for the multiplayer, and Pokemon it's Kanto. It's like a 2-hour game, like so then just some post game if you so choose. So, I mean, like, I had time. I'm not done with it yet, but I'm almost done with Hollow Knight. I finally took the time to finish Fire Emblem Warriors, and I'm now considering getting my third copy of Hyrule Warriors. But I'm getting games crossed off. And I'm not going to be able to do it this year. I know for a fact the 3 games I will get are Pokemon Sword and Shield, one of them, not both. Super Mario Maker 2, and Astral Chains. Those are the games I know for a fact I'm getting, and then from there I'm making cuts. Like, because
speaking of, we might as well just move into the upcoming games. So, for a fact, we know that new games that we have coming up are Astral Chains, Luigi's Mansion 3, Yoshi's Crafted World, Pokemon Sword and Shield,
Daemon X Machina,
Mortal Kombat 11. Let's see. Box Boy and Box Girl.
Metroid we have coming sometime in the future got pushed back again, but it's happening.
2022 or 2023. We also have Super Mario Maker 2, which just got announced at the Direct. We still have Dragon Quest Builders and Fire Emblem 3 Houses coming out. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming out. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Oninaki,
Bayonetta 3,
Dragon Quest 11. Like, moving into 2019, we are seeing a very big increase of game releases, especially when we compare it to 2018's release window. Now, a lot of these games aren't dated yet, and hopefully they start plugging in those dates relatively soon, because I know people are starting to get antsy that we still haven't had like a real major title coming out. But Yoshi will be out on the 29th of this month, so that's something to look forward to. I'm really excited about Yoshi's Crafted World, actually. And so far we've had Tetris 99 get released this year as well, which has been like an unrelenting breakout success in my opinion. I love Tetris 99. I have yet to win a match. The best I've done is second place, which is really frustrating because like, no, how you get to the end and lose? It's so frustrating. I am going to win a match. I mark my words. I'm going to win a match of Tetris 99.
All my friends have, and I haven't. And I played quite a bit. I'm better than the average guy at Tetris, but I'm not anything special. But I'm better than some of my friends who actually have won. That ticks me off a bit.
Yeah, so when we look at like the upcoming games list, man, we even got a Dragon Ball Heroes game coming out, which has never happened in the Western world. We've never got Dragon Ball Heroes released outside of Asia. So we're looking at this at the state of the console. The future is bright right now. I mean, it's been 2 years since the console's been released. We're moving into year 3, and we're seeing a lot of great content. We're also starting to see a lot more developers really kind of pledge their support to the Nintendo Switch. And not too long ago, EA somehow was able to make their special engine run on the Nintendo Switch, which for a long time I always assumed was possible, that it was just EA being lazy, crooked developers. They say they're making it run on the Nintendo Switch. So we're starting to see a lot more developers get on board. We're starting to see a lot more indie support, which already had a lot of indie support. The state of the console's in a really good place. The console has yet to really lose its momentum, which is really nice to hear, because it would be easy for that first year to have been really good, and then the second year to have been average, and then the third year to have been pretty terrible. But it doesn't look like we're going that way. Nintendo's got a nice steady stream of third-party releases, first-party releases, and a bunch of remakes. There's a bunch of like Square's support for the Nintendo Switch has been phenomenal. We still have so many Final Fantasy games coming out for Nintendo Switch.
Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, when?
I think it's this month, isn't it?
I think so. I'm hoping at least. I think Crystal Chronicles, when?
And yeah, wow, man, I don't even know.
Yeah, me neither.
So we have Crystal Chronicles, Chocobo, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, 10-2, Dragon Quest XI. There's just so many games. Square support has been relentless. They're just like, we're gonna bombard you with games to the point where you can't even get them all. So yeah, but I honestly think the console's in a good place. Now, Nintendo did amend their sales figures to what their goal is. They went from 20 million and they dropped it down to something like 17 million. They're still, but I think with the release of Smash and Pokemon Let's Go, they managed to really pick up sales in the back half of last year, which the Nintendo Switch was the best-selling console of the holiday season, which was really nice to hear. And obviously, Smash and Pokemon were the drivers of that push. But yeah, I think the system is in a really good place. So that leads us to possible hardware revisions. The initial design of the Switch is fantastic, but we're at that point in the Switch's lifespan, as far as Nintendo handhelds are concerned, that we start to see the kind of revisions that we saw with the DS, where we saw the DS Lite, ultimately the DSi, and then the DSi XL. And obviously we had the 3DS, the 3DS XL, and the 3DS. What was the other one with the changing faceplates?
The new 3DS, just simply.
The new 3DS.
Yeah.
Now, whenever Nintendo does hardware revisions on their handhelds, they're not just shell revisions. They're putting in faster processors, better, making the graphics a little bit better, especially with the 3DS the new 3DS XL. When that system was released, it had a much better processor and was able to output the graphics much faster and much better. Games like Xenoblade Chronicles, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, and Super Smash Bros. For 3DS all really benefited from the hardware revision. They run much faster. Oh, and what is it? Hyrule Warriors.
And Fire Emblem Warriors, yes.
Yes. Those games ran better on the new 3DS hardware versus the standard 3DS hardware. Now, how much better? Not a whole lot better because it's still a very small handheld, but it was
noticeable.
You notice the difference. So we're coming to the part where I would start to think that Nintendo is actively thinking about announcing a hardware revision for the Nintendo Switch. Now, what could that entail? I know the biggest, rumor is Nintendo would release a dockless Nintendo Switch that does not have removable Joy-Cons. I find that version of the Switch to be really lame.
How are you going to play Mario Party?
Exactly. Well, I guess you'd have to buy Joy-Cons separate just to play it like that. Well, now, I get the appeal of the Nintendo Switch as a portable console. Like, I get the appeal of it, of why people would like to exclusively use it as a handheld. I actually think Nintendo would sell far more systems with a hardware revision like that because Nintendo they did a survey last year, and they asked people, how do you predominantly play your Nintendo Switch? And 52% said that they predominantly play in handheld mode, which says a lot about Nintendo's handheld, their prestige as a handheld developer, but it says a lot about the quality of their content that people want to play these games on the go. Now, there are a few games that I would definitely not want to play on the go, like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. First off, docking that game makes a significant difference to the visual presentation of that game. And obviously it's just so pretty to look at. I would want to see it on the largest screen possible. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of a dockless Nintendo Switch with undetachable Joy-Cons. Like to me, that kind of defeats the purpose of the hardware. the appeal of the hardware, the gimmick of the hardware, if you will, is that it is both a portable and a home console. And I think if you take any one of those aspects away, you lose a lot of the appeal. Conversely, a version of the Nintendo Switch, a possible hardware revision, is that a non-portable version of the Nintendo Switch, one that is exclusively a console for your home play. I'm not a fan of that idea either. But if we're talking about hardware revisions, that's a possible hardware revision. Do you have any thoughts on potential hardware revisions that the system could undergo in order to extend its lifespan or possibly make it better?
So I will straight up say this now. I don't believe we're getting a hardware revision, at least soon. For the most part, Nintendo didn't do revisions of the 3DS. There's like the 3DS XL, and that's pretty much it until the market was just completely saturated for the 3DS. No one was really buying the 3DS because the people that wanted them already had them, and so the new 3DS was a way to get them back into consumers' hands to sell the systems a bit more. The Switch doesn't need. The Switch just doesn't need that. People are still buying Switches, and they will for a quite a long time until the foreseeable future. And then I could see them maybe thinking about potential revisions now, but they're not going to announce anything for quite some time. The way I kind of see it, I see them going the more portable route. I think the big thing is that you don't have a dock when you are entirely portable. And so that cuts down the cost. I think the big two things that they would make if they made the hardware revisions, maybe big three, as we've said before, faster, better processor. I'm going to say they want better battery life, for sure. But then they also want to lower the price point to make it more accessible for people who might have $300 to blow on the console. And so I'm looking at the dock itself is like $80-$90. And so then at that point, you're dropping the Switch. Theoretically, you're dropping it down to $220. I don't think the dock actually costs that much to make. But when you think about what you're getting when you buy that $300 system, you can cut the cost that way by not including the dock and just having a standalone system. You're cutting costs, and it's a smaller system, so that might cut costs, and you can use a bit of that cost to upgrade the battery, maybe. I don't know.
Forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, if they're gonna do a hardware revision, if being the keyword, I would think that a better processing chip, whatever Nvidia's got up their sleeve. I know because we must keep in mind that the graphics processor and basically the inner workings of the Nintendo Switch are all Nvidia's babies. So whatever Nvidia has up their sleeve for the Nintendo Switch, or in general, would be really beneficial to the Nintendo Switch. So, I would like to see a faster processor, something that would essentially make the Switch run 60 frames per second in handheld mode as much as possible. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent on the content that is being released. But with better processors, we could definitely see stuff like that. So those are the things I kind of expect to see in a hardware revision for the Nintendo Switch. That being said, I'm in 100% agreement with you. The Nintendo Switch does not yet need a hardware revision, but it's just something that's been coming up since the release of the Switch. Is what would a hardware revision look like? And I think the most popular one is a dockless one with non-detachable Joy-Cons. Now, I'm not saying Nintendo won't eventually do that, but as of right now, they're in the mindset that we're not going to release a Nintendo Switch like that. But like I said, as we move into year 3 and beyond, not unlikely.
Agreed.
I mean, we did have that discless Wii system at the very tail end. Yeah, the Wii Mini at the very end of the Wii's lifespan. And the Wii U never really got a hardware revision because the Wii U was an unmitigated disaster. All right.
No
So
disputes.
moving on, we have to talk about the effect that the Nintendo Switch has had in terms of handheld gaming. Um, as of this last direct, I think it's safe to assume that the 3DS is officially done at Nintendo. This is the first direct in a while where they didn't announce something new for the 3DS. Now we still have a Mario and Luigi game on the horizon, but I think that's actually it going forward. I don't think we have any more big games coming out for the Nintendo 3DS. So, with that being said, I think it may be safe to say that the Nintendo Switch has effectively killed handheld game going forward, which essentially means that going forward, Nintendo has to maintain the concept of the Switch, of a console that is both home console and portable, because it's been forever since Nintendo had only one platform to support. Uh, the Game Boy was released in 1989, so since 1989 we have been in a two. If you were a Nintendo fan, your attention has been split by two separate consoles. This is and once the 3DS dies, we will be in a state like that again. So going forward, if Nintendo wants to maintain their hold on the handheld market, they need to, every console going forward would need to adhere to the Switch's portability.
So the way I see it, not only is the 3DS dead, but officially the Vita, which has technically been dying for years now, is now officially dead. They are making no more anymore, and the last game is coming out like soon. I think it's like it. I think it actually just got announced, but it's like the last game when that does come out. So you're looking at, this is the only real game system in the space other than maybe phones, and your big competitor in the mobile space is just phones. Potentially we could see more companies enter the mobile space again. Everyone's talking about how Sony's gearing up for that PlayStation 5, and I doubt that they're going to do it, but Sony is famous for copying Nintendo, but worse.
The PlayStation Classic.
That's the most recent, but then there's also the PlayStation Move. I'm blanking all the rest, but they do it a lot, and it's always never as good as Nintendo. But even the point is just that they have a tendency to copy Nintendo, and so we could maybe see them releasing something to the Switch, and or the canning of the Vita is maybe to make way for a new Sony handheld in the future. Maybe I couldn't tell you which one, but I don't see the future being just left entirely to Nintendo. Although I think they will definitely have one of the strongest holds on that market, being right now the only player in that market other than phones. They're got that head start.
I know it's in to say that Nintendo has effectively killed their handheld gaming, division. If anything, though, I think that Nintendo may have revitalized handheld gaming and definitely, evolved it with the hardware. Actually, I think we need more handheld-like experiences on the Switch. As much as I love the Nintendo Switch, I still don't actually think there's a killer portable game. Like, when you play a Pokemon game, when you were playing a Pokemon game on the 3DS, you knew that was the perfect portable experience. That was the perfect game for you to experience portably. I don't yet believe that the Nintendo Switch has that game. Even with Pokemon Let's Go, because of the mechanics that they implemented with the motion control,
and
because of those mechanics, it effectively took away from the portable aspect of the game. So I think we need more portable-like experiences. Something as simple as like a Super Mario Land or a Tetris, which obviously we now have Tetris, but it's largely an online version of that game. we don't have a killer portable experience yet on the Nintendo Switch. We have games that are great to play on the Nintendo Switch, but we haven't had that experience yet. And I want to see it. Maybe Pokemon Sword and Shield will alter my opinion, but those games aren't out yet. So, yeah, I would love to see more games like that.
I get what you're saying. I don't think I've really ever had a game that I thought was brilliant and just perfect for handhelds. I've been a big believer.
Bravely Default is a perfect handheld experience.
I've played Bravely Second. I have not played Bravely Default. My best friend has. He liked it. It was a bit grindy towards the end, he said. That's all I really know. I'm not sure if he would define it as a great portable experience. I don't really know. I could ask him sometime maybe. But as it stands, like, I don't think I've ever really had one that I would have maybe thought. I think the RPG genre does really well to be portable. That much I will always vouch for. I think Pokemon does really well. A game like Persona, especially after playing 5, like where I'm tethered to my PlayStation 4. The experience benefits from being able to take that experience with you and untether it to that TV.
Yeah, that's my main problem right now. Is I have yet to play a game on the Nintendo Switch that I am in 100% necessity of. Like, there's 100% necessity of me being able to play that game anywhere. There's no game that I need to play everywhere. Now, Breath of the Wild was the closest. Like, I did play Breath of the Wild handheld a lot, actually. In fact, after I did my unboxing of the Nintendo Switch on launch day video, I played the first 6 hours of Breath of the Wild in handheld mode because I didn't want to go through the trouble of setting the system up yet. I just wanted to get into the game. So that's the closest. But there's no game right now that beckons and calls me to play me on the go.
For me, that's Hollow Knight right now. Hollow Knight definitely has that for me on lock. It's the game I probably have the most handheld hours in. But I want to
let you know how many hours you play in handheld versus dock. I wish that was like a built-in thing on the system.
Statistic, yeah.
The Wii and the Wii U had all those statistics like in them. I would love to see that. Like, and right now, all we see is our overall playtime.
I know that the Parental Controls app lets you view statistics, but other than that, I do not know at all about what those statistics show. I know there are statistics you can view in the Parental Controls app, though, and that's about it.
I downloaded that app, and it doesn't go that deep.
Okay. But I want to actually break away from the portable games and just go back to talking about, other potential threats in the market to Nintendo. Google is planning to actually make a gaming console. They are going to appear at GDC, whether it's portable, home, virtual, streaming, whatever. We don't know, but they are entering the field. I could see potentially Xbox. I've been thinking for a while they're the only real, like, out of the big three we currently have. They're the only company that never really entered that mobile space, and I think it might be worth their interest to at least attempt. If they could get a good games library, maybe learn a thing or two from the Switch, etc. I think it'd be worth their time. I don't know.
Just to go off on a tangent, since you brought up that Google controller, have you seen it? Oh, that Google. They
the video.
No, they released the patent for their controller, and it looks exactly like the Pokken Tournament controller with analog sticks.
Oh gosh, I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah, so it has a D-pad, it has your 4 standard face buttons, but then it has analog sticks, so it looks like your Pokken Tournament controller with your face buttons. With analog sticks. And kind of want to call Google out on this. It's like, hey, this is infringement.
I don't know. I have not seen it, but I'm not sure I like that because it was a good controller, but it wasn't pretty, I guess, the Pokken controller. At least. I don't know.
I'm going to pull it up right now. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to do a screen share. I haven't done one of these in a while. Screen share.
While you're doing that, I also want to touch on how Nintendo does. Nintendo, in terms of a home console, okay, here it is. There's the Pokken one, okay.
I want one that just so there's the Pokken controller.
Oh yeah, you're quite right. That does look exactly. You're right. It actually kind of looks uglier. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say it looks a bit
Oh
ugly.
yeah, the Pokken tournament controller looks much more ergonomic.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. It kind of reminds me of like a shorter version of the Ouya controller.
Oh
The,
yeah.
the Ouya,
All
yeah.
right. Sorry.
Um,
I just had to show everybody that because that's just terrible. All right, go ahead.
okay. So Nintendo has had decreasing home console sales for years, with the exception of the original Wii. They've just gotten worse and worse with sales. So it kind of makes me think that maybe they should, like, obviously the Switch is good because it merges the handheld with the console, and that captures their existing very large handheld market, and then also kind of puts them in that home console space too. So that's good for Nintendo, but I could see the reverse happening where somehow the Switch flops because it's a home console too. And while that's not currently happening and does not look like it will happen for quite some time, depending on the trend Nintendo takes in the future, if they do continue this sort of hybrid console, or if they do split once again, I think it'd be interesting to see what direction the home console versus the portable system takes. Especially as the market does change, like we see a more increase in mobile phone gaming, how that affects Nintendo as well, maybe.
It's true. All right. So moving on. I want to talk about the Switch in terms while we're on the terms of its portability. I want to see more mobile games pop up on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm not a huge advocate for mobile games. In fact, I am like the least likely person to actually be suggesting this. But I think the Switch is ripe for this kind of market. The portability of it. I am surprised that developers of mobile games aren't actually moving into the Switch's, ecosystem. Now, I don't know if that's a byproduct of Nintendo blocking them from releasing their games on mobile, their mobile games onto the Nintendo Switch. But we are starting to see a few because the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is getting a Switch release, and there is another big game that's coming out for the Nintendo Switch that's pretty big on mobile. But I'm surprised we haven't seen a game like Hearthstone pop up on the Nintendo Switch.
We've seen a lot of Hearthstone clones, though.
That's true, but not Hearthstone itself. Like, we haven't seen that kind of support, and I'm at a loss for words as to why. I honestly think the Switch, with its capacitive touchscreen, with its overall portability, lends itself to these style of games. Like, I'm not saying we need every mobile game, but I'm saying the system itself could definitely handle that. I mean, look at Pokemon Quest. That got announced and released last year. And I honestly think that the install base is larger on the Switch than it was on the actual mobile, which is weird because, it can be played on Android and Google. But I think the larger base for that is actually on the Switch itself. I'm surprised. I'm just really surprised by that concept that, like, there aren't a lot more mobile style games on the Nintendo Switch.
We did get Disney Tsum Tsum Festival announced at the last Direct, if you remember, though.
You're right.
So yes.
Not the game that I was talking about, but yes, that is.
No, it fits the bill. So we have a decent number of mobile games now, though. We have, as you've mentioned, Pokemon Quest. We have Fallout Shelter. We have the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, which, while it is Final Fantasy 15, is a mobile phone game. So there's a decent chunk of these mobile games on the system, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they're good to have. I don't want to see them running rampant, but I might prefer some of the mobile phone games as opposed to some of the other games in the shop. I don't know. Just my opinion.
True. So we did get Fallout Shelter as well for the Nintendo Switch. I'm just surprised. There are so many mobile games. There's so many games littered in that ecosystem. I'm just surprised. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! Boom. There it is. There is a Yu-Gi-Oh game on the phones that is coming to the Nintendo Switch. The Duel Links game is being ported to the Switch's hardware, which makes a whole lot of sense. Man, I don't know why it took me so long to remember that. But yeah, I am in awe that we're just not seeing more mobile style games. I was racking my brain. I was like, what game is it? It's something really popular. But yeah, and vice versa. I'm surprised there aren't like, even with Nintendo's own mobile IP, like I wonder how many people would end up playing Fire Emblem Heroes on the Nintendo Switch. I'm playing it on the larger screen. I feel like that game would take off on the Nintendo Switch as long as they were connected, and they should be, considering you would be using your mobile ID, your Nintendo ID. Even Super Mario Run would be a lot of fun to come over. I mean, they'd have to change the orientation of the game. Maybe not in handheld. If you had it undocked, you could still kind of play like. I'm just surprised that we're not seeing these games, and like I said, I'm not making this a call. This isn't a call to arms. I feel like this is the right console for it.
If there's any console, it's definitely the Switch. I'll tell you that much. But yeah.
All right. Oh man. So I'm honestly wondering, is there anything else that I think we haven't touched on as far as, you know, the state of the hardware, the upcoming games, revisions, what it's done to the, you know, handheld gaming? What, you know, one more. I guess I think we've pretty much hit on every topic that we need to hit on.
I believe so, yes.
All right, so guys, with that, let's just hit you up with our closing thoughts. So I'm going to kick things off by saying I think this was a really fun episode. We got to talk about a whole lot of great stuff. Labo VR, like a new Pokemon movie, especially after they just announced, you know, we just saw a new trailer for Detective Pikachu. It's kind of cool to see, like, you know, the Japanese, the Japanese studio is like, hey, we have a movie coming out too. Don't forget about us. So, yeah, obviously we covered the Cygames versus Nintendo, Sakurai murdering himself to bring us video games. And
I don't like that word choice. It's a bit drastic. That's a bit drastic, but yeah. Okay.
Sakurai committing seppuku while developing, you know, Smash Brothers games. We've talked about the Octopath Traveler spinoff for mobile devices. Yeah, and then we've talked. You know, we've got to talk about the state of the Switch in 2019. 2 years later, I look forward to seeing what, you know, the rest of this year has to offer. We still have E3 coming up. We don't know what Nintendo's going to showcase at E3. Since Metroid got pushed back, I'm putting my eggs in the Luigi's Mansion basket. I think they're going to build a haunted house at E3 this year. I look forward to that. I'm kind of praying for that one. I would love to see them do what they did with Super Mario Odyssey for Luigi's Mansion. The E3 show floor, you know they're going to announce something big at E3. Nintendo is fairly good about doing that. I think the only one that they really kind of disappointed was 2015, and we haven't had an E3 like that in a while. So going forward, I think the state of the Switch, we're in a really good place, and I can't wait to see what they show at E3 so that we can get a good grasp on what 2020 might look like. And as we know, Metroid went, they're rebooting Metroid, so we at least, because I'm figuring that game's going to come out like 2021 to 2022, I hope we see some big stuff to kind of fill in that Metroid gap.
Potentially even with more Metroid. They said there's more Metroid down the pipeline, so maybe there's a third game they were working on at the time. You never know.
Or the trilogy, the remake of the Metroid Prime trilogy.
That could also, or just like even other trilogies, like a Pikmin trilogy.
It's true. All right, any closing thoughts, B?
No, there's a lot of good topics that we covered today, a lot of interesting things, and taking a look at the past 2 years very briefly, and a little bit of speculation on 2019 and early 2020. I think this is a good episode. I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love doing this show, man. We get to talk about so much stuff, and been a fairly busy 2 weeks, man. We haven't done this many news stories in a while.
No,
and if pretty focused.
And
nobody's retired this week.
Yeah, so we have gotten the 2 week schedule pretty much perfectly for this point on. One last thing I actually might want to say is make sure you enter the contest giveaway for the Lucky Day Pikachu, because if you don't enter, no one enters, and that's going to me. I'm requesting goes to me. He told me before the show that I cannot have it as I'm a Nintendo Power Zone employee. But if no one enters, I am making a claim right here, right now. It's going to me. So get entering, because I want that, and I will take it if I can.
All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and close out this show with our social media links. You can hit me up on Twitter at nice1983. You can email me at nice193@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/Nintendo Power Zone. If you are a fan of the Nintendo Power Zone podcast, you can download new episodes on iTunes, Google Play Music, stream new episodes on Stitcher Radio. But if you want to watch the show live, you can catch us right here on YouTube. But wait, we have one more option for your listening pleasure. You can now download and stream episodes on Spotify. That makes us available on every major podcasting platform. We are there. So you can find us by searching Nintendo Power Zone on all those platforms. Power Zone spelled as one word. All right, B, hit him up with the social media.
You can tweet at me why you think I should not have the Lucky Day Pikachu at VKing Blues. Blues, as always, spelled BLOOZ. Same thing with my not Facebook, duh. I can't talk. My YouTube and my Twitch. You can also try and enter that to steal it away from me, the Lucky Day Pikachu, by commenting here on the YouTube page what was your favorite Pokemon moment in the movies, and subscribing. And I think that'll be it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks. That is our promise. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more awesome Nintendo content. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Peace.